Welcome students. So in today's lecture we shall be learning about the concepts of urea cycle. So what is urea cycle? It is a part of the metabolism of proteins or amino acids. So urea is the end product of protein metabolism. We can simply say that urea is the end product of protein metabolism. To be precise, it is the metabolism of amino acids. So urea accounts for 80 to 90% of the nitrogen containing substances that are excreted in urine. It is synthesized in liver. So urea is synthesized in liver and transported to kidneys for excretion in urine. It was the first metabolic cycle that was elucidated by the Hans Krebs and Kurt Henseleit in 1932. Hence, it is also known as Krebs-Henseleit cycle. So, don't get confused if in exams the urea cycle comes by the name of Krebs-Henseleit cycle. These were the two scientists which have discovered this detoxification cycle in 1932. The individual reactions, however, were described more detail by the Ratner and Cohen. So urea has two amino groups, one derived from ammonia and other from aspartate. So let us first simply draw the structure of urea. You can see here. So one of the amino group is derived from ammonia, while the second amino group is derived from aspartate. So in the metabolic cycle we will come to know how these ammonia groups are attached, and the carbon atoms, this one, they are supplied from carbon dioxide molecule. So urea synthesis is basically a 5-step cycle. So it is a 5-step cycle involving 5 reactions and 5 distinct enzymes. The first 2 enzymes are present in mitochondria, while the rest are localized in the cytosol of the cell. So the first 2 reactions, they occur in mitochondria, while rest 3, they occur in cytosol of cell due to presence of enzymes. So now let us describe the details of the urea cycle first. So before starting it in detail, let us first outline the urea cycle. How does this reaction occurs? So this reaction will be starting from a molecule of carbon dioxide and ammonia or ammoniamides. So they two will be combining to form a compound or a molecule known as carbamoyl phosphate. This carbamoyl phosphate will be combining with ornithine and will lead to formation of a molecule of citrulline. So after this, the citrulline will be combining with the aspartate molecule to form arginosuccinate. So an aspartate molecule will be combining with the citrulline to form arginosuccinate, and this arginosuccinate will be leading to formation of fumarate and arginine. So from arginosuccinate an arginine molecule is liberated and a molecule of fumarate is released out. From arginine again the ornithine will be formed in presence of water, and that leads to liberation of one molecule of urea. So you can see here the urea is liberated. So as we have discussed that the first two reactions occur in the mitochondria. So you can see that this much reaction is occurring in mitochondria of the cell. Up to the formation of citrulline. So this part occurs in the mitochondria, whereas the rest of the reaction occurs in, we all know, in the cytosol of the cell. So this is the basic outline of the urea cycle. So now let us discuss in detail that how this reaction occurs and the key intermediates that are formed along with the structures. So the first reaction will be, you can see here, that is formation of or synthesis of carbamoyl phosphate. This will be the synthesis of carbamoyl phosphate. So in this, a carbamoyl phosphate synthase 1 of mitochondria catalyzes the condensation of ammonia ions with the carbon dioxide. So in this reaction there will be a condensation of ammonium ions and carbon dioxide molecule to form carbamoyl phosphate. This step consumes 2 ATP and is irreversible and rate limiting step. So consumption of two ATPs, and this is a rate limiting step as it is irreversible in nature. So CPS1 or carbamoyl phosphate synthase 1 requires N-acetyl glutamate for its activity. Another enzyme, that is CPS2 or carbamoyl phosphate synthase 2, is involved in pyrimidine synthesis and is present in cytosol. So let us see how this reaction occurs. It will be starting by a molecule of carbon dioxide and ammonia or the ammonium ions. So together these two will be joining to form a molecule of carbamoyl phosphate in presence of enzyme carbamoyl phosphate synthase 1. And during this 2 ATPs are utilized. So 2 ATPs will be utilized. In presence of N-acetyl glutamate. So NAG will be N-acetyl glutamate. That is important for the activity of the enzyme carbamoyl phosphate synthase 1. So this leads to formation of carbamoyl phosphate. Now see here, one NH2 group will be donated by the ammonia. So this is the structure for carbamoyl phosphate. Now comes the second reaction. The second reaction is formation of citrulline. So this carbamoyl phosphate will be leading to form a molecule of citrulline. Now here comes the second stage, that is synthesis of citrulline, or we can say carbamoyl or formation of citrulline. This is formation of citrulline. So in this, the citrulline is synthesized from carbamoyl phosphate and ornithine by ornithine transcarbamylase enzyme. So here will be a condensation of ornithine and carbamoyl phosphate. Ornithine and citrulline are basic amino acids, so they are never found in protein structure due to the lack of codons. Whereas citrulline produced in this reaction is transported to cytosol by a transport system. So the enzyme involved in this is ornithine transcarbamylase. So now let us see how this reaction proceeds. For this we will have to draw a structure of ornithine also. So this is the structure for ornithine. So ornithine will be reacting with the carbamoyl phosphate, that will lead to formation of citrulline. So this reaction occurs in presence of enzyme ornithine transcarbamylase. And one inorganic phosphate is released out. So now let us draw the structure for citrulline first. So students, this is the structure for citrulline. So in the second stage, there is the formation of citrulline. So up to this, the reactions are occurring in the mitochondria. The next reaction is formation of arginosuccinate from aspartate, stage number 3. Now this is the stage number 3, that is formation or synthesis of arginosuccinate. Now let us see how this occurs. The arginosuccinate synthase condenses citrulline with aspartate to produce arginosuccinate. So this is the condensation of citrulline with aspartate. That leads to formation of arginosuccinate. The second amino group of urea is incorporated in this reaction, so aspartate contributes the next NH2. This step acquires ATP, which is cleaved to form AMP and pyrophosphate. So it involves utilization of one ATP molecule. So let us see how this reaction occurs. The aspartate here is contributed from the oxaloacetate in the TCA cycle. So now let us see how this reaction occurs. First of all, let us draw the structure for aspartate molecule. It's a very simple one. So this aspartate molecule will be joining the citrulline to form arginosuccinate. Plus the utilization of one ATP in presence of enzyme arginosuccinate synthase. So the name of enzyme is arginosuccinate synthase. So this leads to formation of arginosuccinate. So let us see how this arginosuccinate is formed. So here will be the joining of aspartate molecule with a molecule of citrulline, and this condensation reaction will lead to formation of arginosuccinate. So this is the aspartate molecule and this is the molecule of citrulline. And this is the molecule of arginosuccinate. So students, you can easily see that we have completed halfway the reactions. So this arginosuccinate will further be cleaved into arginine and fumarate molecule. That will be our fourth step. So in our fourth step, this will lead to formation of arginine and fumarate, stage 4. We can write it over here in the stage 4, that is cleavage of arginosuccinate So in this stage it leads to formation of arginine and fumarate, and this fumarate formed is again utilized in TCA cycle. the fumarate is utilized in TCA and gluconeogenesis. So now let us see how this occurs. This occurs in the presence of enzyme known as arginosuccinase. So arginosuccinase enzyme is involved in this. That leads to formation of fumarate. So first of all, let us draw the structure for fumarate that is being liberated out. So this is the structure for fumarate, and it also leads to formation of arginine molecule. So I will be using a different color because here you can see the precursor formation of ammonia also. So this is the structure of arginine. So you can clearly see here the formation of urea, and the name of enzyme is arginosuccinase. So from arginine again ornithine will be formed. You can see from here, from arginine a molecule of ornithine will be formed again with removal of one urea molecule in presence of water. So this is the last stage, that is formation of urea. So this is the fifth and the final reaction that occurs in presence of enzyme arginase. So in this arginase is involved, arginase enzyme is involved. So ornithine is regenerated, that enters the mitochondria for its reuse, and arginase is activated by cobalt and manganese ions. So in this the ornithine and lysine will be acting as a competitive inhibitors, and moreover this reaction occurs in presence of water. Now a water molecule is added, and this leads to liberation of one molecule of urea. And the name of enzyme is arginase. And thus again a molecule of ornithine is liberated and the cycle is completed again. So here you can see that up to the formation of citrulline, the reaction occurs in mitochondria. So the reactions occur in mitochondria, and the other three reactions will be occurring in the cytosol of the cell. So these are the 5 stages. Now let us see the overall reaction, so that the overall equation is understood. The overall reaction will be ammonium ions plus carbon dioxide plus aspartate, and utilization of 3 ATP also occurs. This leads to formation of urea, liberation of fumarate, two ADPs, two inorganic phosphates, one adenosyl monophosphate and pyrophosphate molecule. So this is the overall reaction that is occurring. So there is also an integration among this, because the carbon dioxide being supplied is from the decarboxylation reactions in the TCA cycle, and the oxaloacetate is also leading to formation of aspartate, which is utilized in formation of arginosuccinate. So if we want to add it here, how this reaction occurs, we can see from here that in the TCA cycle, let us draw it in brief. The oxaloacetate will be supplying the aspartate, and this aspartate will be leading to formation of arginosuccinate, and further from arginosuccinate, when arginine is formed, the fumarate will be released back into the TCA cycle again, and from the fumarate this leads to formation of malate, and from the malate again oxaloacetate is formed, and so from this the TCA cycle is completed. That leads to generation of 12 ATPs, whereas the urea cycle involves the utilization of 4 ATP. And the carbon dioxide that is liberated from the decarboxylation reactions of TCA cycle, they are liberated back to formation of carbamoyl phosphate. So students, this is the interrelation between the urea cycle and the TCA cycle. So I hope now all the stages of urea cycle and TCA cycle are clear to you, and how the 5 reactions that are occurring in the urea cycle, out of which 2 reactions are completed in the mitochondria, and the rest 3 reactions are completed in the cytosol of the cell. So students, keep revising, as the structures are quite complicated in this, so you will have to donate some of your time in it. So best of luck. Thank you.